The 100 unbroken. The galactic empire had conquered thousands of worlds. They had crushed rebellions, shattered fleets, and broken the will of countless species. No one resisted the inevitable. No one, except humanity. When the Imperial forces invaded Earth, they expected another swift victory. Humanity was technologically inferior, their fleets mere scraps compared to the Empire's warships. And yet, the war had lasted far longer than it should have if the humans did not surrender. They did not beg. They fought like demons, refusing to kneel even when entire cities were turned to glass. So the Empire made an example. They captured the legendary 100, a unit of Earth's fiercest warriors. Men and women who had fought until their last bullets, until their knives were broken, and even then had killed with their bare hands. They were taken alive, not out of mercy, but to be paraded before the galaxy as proof of human weakness. The Empire would show their people that even Earth's greatest fighters could be broken. The arena of submission on the Imperial capital world, the 100 were brought to the Grand Colosseum. Billions watched the broadcast, expecting the usual display: beaten warriors groveling for mercy, acknowledging the Empire's superiority before their execution. But as the gates opened, the humans did not shuffle forward in chains. They walked tall. Heads high, eyes burning. The announcer, a high-caste noble, smirked. "You are before the might of the Empire. Kneel, and your deaths will be swift." "Silence," the crowd murmured. The prisoners stood like statues, unwavering. A Praetorian guard, twice the size of a human, stepped forward and struck the nearest man across the face. Blood dripped from his split lip. The human only smiled. The Praetorian struck again. Harder. Bones cracked. Yet the human stood. The noble scowled. "Perhaps you do not understand." The executions began. One by one, the humans were lined up and shot. But not one screamed. Not one begged. Not one shed a tear. They only stared. It was not defiance. It was something worse. It was absence of fear, terror. In the Emperor's court, that execution was supposed to be a message. But instead, it became something else. The footage spread. Across 1,000 worlds, species who had cowered under Imperial rule whispered among themselves. These humans, these fragile creatures, had faced death without fear. The Emperor himself watched in silence. How many were there? "Only 100, Your Radiance." "And they faced us like that?" "Yes." The Emperor clenched his fists. He had seen armies surrender at the mere sight of Imperial warships. But these? They did not fear death, and an enemy that does not fear death cannot be conquered. The spark of rebellion on distant worlds, whispers turned to action. Slaves refused to bow. Soldiers questioned their loyalty. The Empire had shattered countless civilizations, but now they faced a nightmare, not an enemy of superior firepower. Not a rival empire, but an idea. A simple, terrifying idea. If 100 humans could stand unbroken, then so could millions, and thus, the Empire's greatest war began. The unyielding. The Galactic Empire had conquered countless worlds. Resistance was futile, surrender inevitable. Every species, no matter how proud, eventually broke under their might. Fear was the greatest weapon of the Empire, more powerful than any fleet or army. Yet, on a desolate prison moon orbiting Danath Prime, they encountered something they had never faced before. 100 men captured in the ruins of Earth, these soldiers of humanity were paraded before the Imperial Senate as trophies. The Empire expected them to plead for mercy, to weep, to break, but they did not. They stood in chains, their bodies battered, their uniforms torn, but their eyes? Their eyes held no fear. And that terrified the Empire more than any war they had ever fought. The experiment Grand Inquisitor Zelthos was a master of fear. He had shattered the wills of kings and generals, broken civilizations with whispers in the dark. He relished the suffering of captives, knowing that fear would always win. But these humans, these 100 men, were different. Zelthos ordered one to be separated from the rest. A tall, scarred man, Colonel Daniel Voss. "You understand where you are, human?" Zelthos hissed. Voss remained silent. "You are alone. Your species is gone. Your world is ours." Voss chuckled. Zelthos narrowed his eyes. "Something amusing?" "You're afraid of us," Voss said. "That's why we're still alive." Zelthos sneered, activating the neural agony device implanted in Voss's spine. Pain should have crippled him. It had reduced warlords to sobbing wrecks. Voss gritted his teeth but did not scream. He simply looked at Zelthos with cold, unblinking defiance. Zelthos turned off the device, stepping back. This was unexpected, Voss smiled, and for the first time in his long career, Zelthos felt a sliver of doubt. The unbreakable the experiments continued. Electroshock. Isolation. Psychological torment. Starvation. Nothing worked. Each man remained silent, unwavering. When one was executed, the others did not weep. They did not react when food was withheld, they did not beg when threatened with annihilation, they only laughed. The Empire could not understand it. Every species they had conquered had broken, had begged, had feared. But these humans, they do not fear death, the Imperial scientists whispered, they do not fear pain, the officers muttered, they do not fear us, the Senate murmured, and that realization sent a shiver through the heart of the Galactic Empire. The fall of fear word of the 100 men without fear spread across the Empire. Whispers turned into legends. Entire garrisons began questioning their loyalty. If fear did not control these humans, could it truly control anyone? A revolution began, slow at first, then uncontrollable. Alien species that had once trembled under the Empire's rule saw hope in the unyielding defiance of these humans. The prison moon was stormed by rebel forces. The 100 men were freed, and they did not flee, they fought, they led, they conquered. The Empire, built on fear, collapsed under the weight of its own terror. Epilogue. The legacy. When the dust settled, the last remnants of the Empire asked one final question: how? How did you never break? Colonel Voss smiled. We were already dead, he said. And dead men don't fear anything. The 100 who did not break the Galactic Empire had conquered thousands of worlds. They had seen every manner of resistance, from planetary militias to suicidal zealots. But nothing unnerved them more than the captured humans from Earth, the infamous 100 men. Chapter 1. The capture. The battle for Sol had been brief. Earth, despite its ferocity, fell under the Empire's overwhelming firepower. The capital was razed, orbital defenses shattered, and leaders executed. Among the survivors, the Empire selected 100 prisoners, soldiers, pilots, and resistance fighters, for interrogation. They were taken to Gargathos Prime, a prison world known for breaking even the most hardened warriors. It was a place where minds shattered long before bodies did. The warden, Lord Vezhar, had broken warlords, revolutionaries, and assassins alike. But when the 100 men arrived, something felt different. Chapter 2. The silence. The interrogations began. The first man was taken, Lieutenant James Cormac. He was subjected to pain-inducing neural probes, his memories laid bare before the Empire. They saw his childhood, his first love, the battles he fought. Yet, when the session ended, he simply looked at his captors and said, "Is that all you've got?" The next day, another was taken. Then another. Electro whips, deprivation, simulated executions, none of it worked. They did not scream. They did not beg. They did not plead, and worst of all, they did not talk. Other species broke within days. Some within hours. The humans? They sat in their cells, whispering to one another, laughing even. The guards reported a growing unease. The humans were supposed to be the ones afraid, yet it was the Empire's forces who started feeling nervous. Chapter 3. The madness of fear. Lord Vezhar personally oversaw the next round of interrogations. He selected the youngest of the 100, Private Elias Carter, barely 20 years old. A mere boy by human standards. They showed him footage of Earth's fall. They fabricated stories of his family's betrayal. They beat him, starved him, isolated him, but he did not break. Instead, after weeks of torment, he was found in his cell, smiling. When asked why, he finally spoke, "We've already won." Chapter 4. The turning point. The Empire did not understand. There were no reinforcements coming. Earth was lost. Humanity was defeated, yet the prisoners acted like they had already won. The guards started making mistakes. Some refused to enter the human wing at night. They reported whispers, not from the prisoners, but from the very walls. Shadows played tricks on them. One by one, officers requested transfers, then the suicides began. First, a torturer was found in his quarters, having torn out his own eyes, muttering, "They see me." Then a guard walked into the vacuum chamber and opened the airlock. More and more followed, their minds unraveling. The 100 men still did not break. Chapter 5. The final stand. Lord Vezhar demanded an explanation. What trick was this? What psi weapon had humanity unleashed? Colonel Adrian Vasquez, the leader of the 100, finally spoke. You rule with fear. You expect us to fear you. But we do not. And that terrifies you. Vezhar scoffed. You are prisoners. What can you possibly do? Vasquez grinned. Nothing. And that's enough. The next day, Gargatho's prime fell into chaos. The 100 men did not lift a finger, yet.